Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. Joining us on Zoom to talk about an exciting event that just passed is Ms. Eva Mitchell, CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Eva, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you
I'm
for having
great.
me again.
Yes. Exciting times. As I was saying off here, I saw that you had a packed house on your conference this year. Tell me about the conference.
Yes, we did. We did. Well, this was our third year in staging our capital markets conference. Thankfully, the conference has grown every year since its first staging. This year was really an exciting, fantastic event for us. This year's conference theme was charting new horizons, accelerating growth with diversification, and seizing digital opportunities. And in the context of our regional capital markets, that was a really, really relevant topic for discussion.
Yes.
And the conference created a platform for discussions around that. This year, we had the honor of hosting the governors of Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and Guyana all on one platform. The contribution from these governors was so insightful. They actually delve into critical, relevant topics such as electronic money, regulatory models within each jurisdiction, and the significance of digital public infrastructure, which is relevant topics for us, particularly those who operate within the financial industry. In addition to that, we had your very own Dr. Marlene Street Forrest do a presentation on building a diversified stock market and the importance of a diversified stock market in building out and deepening capital markets within her country, within the region, which was very, very engaging. The feedback that we got from our attendees was that the topics were so relevant. The topics were really hitting the people that were in the room that wanted to hear and wanted to have that sort of information sharing. And the stock exchange was really happy to have created this platform within the financial industry to have all the major players within finance, within our industry and beyond, in the same room to discuss these relevant topics and to discuss these live issues that are not just impacting the markets, but just the way that we do business. And the information that is shared is obviously information that can be used to make strategic decisions going forward.
Absolutely. I was most intrigued, Eva, by the session with the governors. And they seem to be charting a course for real development and real growth across the region. And as you speak about digital currency, which is very topical and something that is being looked at in a major way in the first world countries. We're seeing the crypto market going up yesterday and today. Pulled off a little bit
I think all markets were up
yesterday. Yes, but that's so timely. And our governors across the region, and you had three of the governors from three of the leading economies across the region in terms of Trinidad itself, Jamaica and Guyana, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. How was that received by the stakeholders?
Yeah, it was well received. I mean, the governors touched, apart from what I spoke about before in terms of them talking about regulatory models and electronic money, the word fintech and the evolution of fintech and how it has incorporated itself within our financial landscape is something that's very, very relevant and very critical. The governors not only touched on that, but they spoke of the importance of that even in a post-COVID era where COVID has forced us to do differently, to operate our businesses differently, to invest differently. And supportive of that that investment or supportive of that strategy is technology. And it is so important to embrace technology, not just on an individual level, but on a national level. And I was very happy to see and very happy for them to share to the wider audience that this is something that is not just must have. A must-have, or we're going to do. This is something that we have to do going forward. And they spoke about, where each country was in that trajectory, in that growth trajectory. And it was very, insightful to see, what each country has achieved along that growth path, what we can expect, at least in the short to medium term from each country, and also how we can learn from one another and support one another. And for me, if I were an investment analyst or an investor or a SME or someone who is running my own business, and I'm hearing these encouraging and insightful comments from these governors, I would use that information now to go back to my shop and strategize more effectively.
Interestingly, Eva, we're in an era. So we're coming, as you spoke about coming out of COVID and so on, we went through a period of inflation and high interest rates, and that seemed to have tapered off now. Certainly here in Jamaica, we've seen the Bank of Jamaica moving to cut interest rates in line with the rest of the world. Did the governors address the outlook for inflation and interest rates across their different territories?
They did touch on it to some extent. It was not the basis of the full conversation. What they did stress on is the importance of ensuring that there's market prudence in any situation, the benefit and the importance of ensuring that in order to build out resilience, you must be able to have that regulatory framework that supports growth and development. And that also, supports resilience. Each country would have been, like I said, on different trajectories, and they would have given a somewhat of an outlook on where the short to medium term projection is with respect to economic stability. But one thing what it was assured was that they were putting these steps in place, and some of them have already mobilized those steps to ensure that there is some level of resilience that was seen during the years of COVID, and resilience that will be maintained going forward as we continue to recover from COVID and rebuild a stronger regional economy.
As you talk about building a stronger regional economy, it is well established that the capital markets play a pivotal role in the development and growth of economies. And certainly there is that level of excitement around the capital markets across the region. You just had your conference, packed house. There was a conference in Guyana prior, and there was a lot of interest in looking at the market and learning about stock markets and so on. Are you seeing, certainly in Trinidad, that level of excitement around, companies actually deciding, well, we need to take a look at this form of raising capital?
Yeah. Well, for the stock exchange, we see building a wider investor pool as something that is integral to us having a sustainable stock exchange. So pretty much most of our efforts are around building out that investor pool. Right now, we have about 2% of our working population that actually participates in our stock market. I believe in Jamaica, it's that percentage is much higher, maybe north of 10%, maybe higher than that, right? So we have placed a very dedicated and intentional focus on building out that investor pool. And we're doing so by way of raising our investor awareness and, directing our efforts into financial literacy. So you're going to see, at least over the next 6 to 12 months, a more aggressive effort, a continued aggressive effort on our part to do so. We also believe that another way that we can build out our investor pool is by offering more products, and becoming that gateway to the region and to the foreign markets and at the conference, you would have heard my chairman spoke about a new product that we would launch that will give individual investors and also institutional investors to some extent the access to the international market through a particular product that we expect to launch in short order, of course, subject to regulatory approvals. And that again is another pathway into us achieving our objective of widening that investor pool, lifting that rate from 2%, and our target is actually 10% of the working population. It is a very aggressive and optimistic target, but it's a target that we're certainly dedicated to.
You spoke about, as we look to widen that investor pool, the whole matter of getting people to understand the importance of proper regulations and so on. How important is corporate governance as a part of this development? And are we at the level where you think, companies are looking on and seeing corporate governance as being, good corporate governance as being very important to their own sustainability and growth?
Corporate governance is a necessity in this market. Proper corporate governance is a necessity in this market. Not only does it ensure that there are investors, that you have shareholders or investors that are comfortable and confident in your product, it ensures that that you give yourself that advantage where you become and you maintain that level of attractiveness across the market, right? As a stock exchange, we place a strong emphasis on it. We've launched our mentorship program. Our mentorship program is one that assists companies that are about to list, at least from a compliance perspective, so they understand the ins and outs of listing and operating within a public environment, and they understand what disclosures mean, they understand what reporting means and audit standards and everything, from the lines of having a board in place, independent directors, how decisions are made, how it impacts its shareholders, the importance of ensuring that the company operates within the realms of the regulatory environment. So we have our mentor that is responsible for ensuring that the company is equipped to operate in that way. So the stock exchange, would have ensured that there is a person that is available to companies to assist them in that manner. The stock exchange also partnered with the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industrial Affairs and the Corporate Governance Institute to launch a revised corporate governance code. Actually, that was launched later in October last month. It was the first revision since, I believe, 2012. And the updated version reflects, is more reflective of the current environment, and it's more reflective of a more progressive environment. So it gives the information, the content, and the material needed to guide companies along the lines of ensuring that there are good corporate governance in place, and also outlines the benefits of it. Once we have a market where governance standards are high and governance standards are at a level where it is satisfactory, companies benefit from it, in terms of building market confidence and having a stronger and more diversified investor pool. Not only would they have investors across the retail sector, but the retail industry, but also they will have investors across the institutional sectors, which will allow for more trading, more activity, a wider investor base, and even more benefits to the company to reap and realize.
Yeah, I know Dr. Streetforest spoke about diversifying the product, but in terms of looking at maybe the companies that would likely come to market, It's very important that your stock market reflects your economy. In terms of companies, which are some of the biggest drivers of growth to your economy, and balancing that versus bringing the smaller business, which are also drivers of growth in the economy. Where do you see that across the different economies? Was that addressed any at all?
In terms of what is listed on our exchange now, we have strong companies across. We have a diverse range of companies that are listed on our stock exchange. We have manufacturing, banking, technology, oil. I think where the growth areas are within the context of our local economy is really within the SME sector, and that's something that we see as a growth area for the exchange. It's something that we have placed a lot of focus on over the last, I would say, 5 years. We have created an environment that is more facilitative of an SME listing on our market. There are some attractive tax incentives that an SME can benefit from after listing. And I mentioned the mentorship program.
Yes.
The SME can also engage a mentor through our mentorship program so that that mentor is able to do the hand-holding for the company and give them that guidance that they need from a corporate governance perspective. We really think that that's a growth area for the exchange. And as I mentioned before, one of the objectives is for us to widen that investor pool. And by widening the investor pool, we must offer new products to investors. And SME listings will be new products to investors. So we have done the work where we're making the environment more facilitative for listing and more comfortable for SMEs is concerned. So, and we will continue to do that throughout the next, I would say, 6 to 12 months and beyond to ensure that we realize our growth objectives within a particular SME sector.
It's interesting, Eva. We're at a time where when we look across the region, Guyana, as one of the fastest growing economies in the world, is nestled right among us in this region. And inevitably, as you talk about growth and development and regional trade, Guyana has to come in that conversation somehow. Are we looking at how we invest across borders, or how we integrate, each territory into what we're doing? Certainly, Trinidad, Jamaica are leaders in the capital markets right now in the region. How robust is our systems in engaging investors across the borders?
So as it is now, we are able, our regulations will allow and our processes will allow for us to facilitate cross-listings. So in the event that there is an opportunity for us to cross-list, for any company to cross-list into Trinidad, we do have the infrastructure and we do have the capabilities to do so. We already have, companies that are already cross-listed on the exchange from Jamaica, from Barbados, and we will be happy to facilitate any cross-listings from Guyana. But above that, more importantly, we have started some dialogue with Guyana with respect to engaging in cross-border transactions. There is a willingness to do so, but we are not at the point where we can actually say, put a date to it. But there has been a willingness for us to, explore the option. Right now, Guyana is rich with investment and rich with wealth, and pretty much they are positioned for more growth. And it is exactly in these times that we need to capitalize on that growth opportunity and work together and coordinate our activities so that we can support each other, whether it be from a technical perspective, whether it be from an infrastructure perspective or technology perspective. We certainly stand ready to support Guyana and their growth. On our depository side, we have already started expanding our client pool, beyond our borders into the region and Guyana. So that is something that we're happy to embrace. And, we hope that this will be a start of a bigger and a wider relationship and a wider engagement going forward. But we are our Caribbean brother and sisters together.
Absolutely. What would be the big takeaway for you from this conference, which I knew was great success?
The big takeaway for me was really us, having that discussion on how regulations can be disruptive to a market if not, if not effected in the right way. There was a particular panel where that topic was actually at the forefront of the discussion. And I think if you were to ask anyone in the audience, any of the attendees, they too will also comment that the regulators themselves, and of course the stock exchange also being a regulator, must, it is important that we engage and we consult each other before we effect any change in the regulation. And and what also stood out to me is that copy and paste from one industry or one market to another, it wouldn't always work. This is something, our markets are unique, and it is important for us to assess the nuances and assess the characteristics of each market before we go about any change that may be disruptive for the market. So it's important for us to balance risk, balance prudence, but also ensure that we do it in such a way where it is supportive of growth. Another thing that stood out to me from this conference is, in building out the role, the importance and the role of a listed company on the exchange, and how a listed company can, lead in his particular sector, but also lead in terms of growth and success on an exchange and become a champion of the exchange. And I don't know if you would have seen, but we would have had a speaker that from McKinsey that actually highlighted champions on the exchange and how those particular champions would have contributed to the success and the growth of the exchange. So, those were some important takeaways for me. And I know that any listed companies sitting in the audience I'm hoping that they would have been motivated by that conversation to also become champions of growth for our exchange.
And finally, Eva, investor education, financial education seems to be a big buzzword these days. Everybody is saying we need financial information, we need financial education, investor education. Your conference would have provided some of that. And one of the things is that while when we say investor education, people are looking at the youths and the younger persons, even at the highest levels, there is need for that. Are you comfortable with what you saw, and do you think that the conference did justice to that great need for investor education?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk investor education, we don't talk about just investor education to who we think is likely to participate in the stock market, right? We talk about investor education to build financial literacy and for financial prudence amongst the nation. We wanted that delivery that was intentional at the conference to be heard by special attendees, right? Certain attendees. So we invited some schools to the conference, and we actually had students reach out to us prior to the conference, and expressing their interest and their willingness to attend, as they would have seen on the agenda some interesting topics that they would be, interested in hearing. But it all goes back, Neilson, to the overall objective of the exchange, which is really to grow and expand that investor base from 2% of the working population to 10% of the working population. We can't achieve that without an aggressive investor awareness agenda. And the conference is just one event on the agenda, for us to actually, as part of our efforts of, in achieving that particular goal. But look out for us. We're going to be engaging in more webinars, seminars around investor awareness. I'm sure we would partner with CBX and the Jamaican Stock Exchange again as we continue to work towards that goal in achieving that wider investor base. We are calling not just our local investors, but our regional investors as well to participate in our financial market and our stock market. And we look forward to advancing that agenda with our partners.
Absolutely great, Eva. Always delightful to have a chat with you, and we look forward to partnering with you to help to spread the word on investor education, financial education, and just about the successes of the capital markets across the region and indeed the world. Thank you very much again, Eva. And any final views you want to leave with the viewers?
Just thanks for having me at CBX. Thanks for your participation at the conference. And as always, I look forward to more partnership with you guys.
Thank you very much, Eva. Always great to chat with you. As we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us tomorrow morning at 9. Another insightful program lined up for you.